I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. So let me turn it down a bit. This is BrightAmbience3, and it's got a whole bunch of mojo going on with it, which I will tell you all about. Firstly, let's go and have a look at it. There it is. Boop. So, here's the thing. BrightAmbience3 is an update on the earlier versions of BrightAmbience. And the big improvement on this one is the way that it goes to extremely long sustains. We've got some edits going on here. So here's what BrightAmbience3 is about. You can set the length to be just one, or a one sample, which is zero. And then our start control gives you a simple slapback effect. Or if we turn the feedback up, then we've got a slapback effect that turns into a full-on echo. But here's what happens when we start including length. We've got the feedback going on there, and when we have length, we're stretching out the ambient effect in such a way that, well, check this out. So, what do you mean of that? BrightAmbience3 has been around for a while, but you might not be ready for it, especially when you look at the feedback, which now works on the longer lengths. That makes it a very weird kind of thing. So, you can kind of make it work normally. Wait, hang on a second. Let me dial that back. You can kind of make it work normally, but it also has this tendency of going crazy in interesting ways, and that's new. That was not the case for previous versions of BrightAmbience. You'll note that it kind of drones, but even getting it to do that turned out to be very hard. There was a reason that earlier versions of BrightAmbience couldn't do this. You'd have it going on with the long sustains, and it was just impossible to make that stuff feedback. It would only feedback when you had it going at very short delays like this. And by short, I mean short space within the delay factor. Again, simple delay, kind of more spread out, much more spread out, and even more spread out than that. So the way that works is we're taking the feedback of the extremely long stretched out version of the ambience, and it runs through a bandpass filter, because both the low frequencies and the high frequencies will go to nasty, unpleasant artifacts. We were doing that on Monday on one of the live streams. You'll note that I have it on 100% feedback this entire time, kind of just to show what that's about. And it's an interesting kind of unpleasant, terrible noise. but you don't have to have it doing that full feedback. We can set it to like 0.5, and then you get some of that flavor, some of that sort of vibe and overtone and stuff, but without it getting too out of hand, really. And give me a second while I solo a couple of things. And we can also hear what it does on drums and stuff. Zero feedback. You'll notice I'm kind of moving it around there. Getting some funny effects going on. And you notice that you can do the feedback and the length and turn it into essentially a normal delay. Or you can do the weird wacky stuff. And of course, if you wanted to use it as an ambience, rather than sort of all manner of crazy W effects, we can just do this. Start of 0, so it's going to be tied to the length as closely as we can. And then we just dial it in until it's the length of sustain we want on it. And if we want, we can throw the feedback on there, but we don't have to. And, or we can do just a small amount, enough to get the coloration of the bandpassing reverb tail-like effect. We can expand it out a little bit and have a sort of the BrightAmbience tone while controlling some of that behavior. You should pick the correct length and maybe use start to give it enough of a pre-delay. Or you can leave start at 0 and have it be a more tightly confined reverb effect. And on the drums, we have only so much start available, so it can't glue perfectly to the thing, but you can do the traditional BrightAmbience3 gated reverb effect here. And this is pretty much what we had in the previous BrightAmbience. But we can have a funny overtone in there as well. It's kind of hovering on the verge of trying to feedback. So, that's BrightAmbience3. I hope you like it. As of lately, I've been working really hard on a bunch of undersampling things, and this is one of them. BrightAmbience3 is the undersampling concept that I've been doing for a series of plugins, and I'm probably going to continue doing it because I've recently dialed it in so that it works better for me. And this is the most recent update. What that means is, as you heard, and as you can hear, unlike earlier versions of BrightAmbience3, with this one, if you're at high sample rates, which this is, Logic is running at 96K here, you're getting the full delay length that you would have got if you were at, say, 44.1K. And it's also a more consistent tone, which was the objection. This was by request. Somebody said, BrightAmbience, it doesn't sound the same if I'm running at high sample rates. And they were completely correct. So this is me kind of fixing that while also updating things a little bit. I'm going to have to figure out which camera I need to be looking at for... As always, I'm fooling with all things at once. I've got new studio lighting. I'm working on getting the synthesizers to support some more recording so that I can have new music for a change, which has been, how long has it been? Like a year since I've had the time to track anything new. And I'm working on being able to do that. So we will see how that goes. I've also got a little more in terms of the downsampling stuff to go. I have an idea for maybe a new version of Spiral, which might be interesting for people. And last but not least, I need to start working with the sampler. What you can't see on my Logic project in here is that I started working with Logic's ability to sample stuff and trigger it off of basically using the drum doubling technology. Because I don't find working with hardware samplers comfortable, even though I bought one for the purpose of making plugins that sound like it. So more or less what I see going forward is not that I'm going to be the great new EMU sampler user and it's going to reform my way of doing everything. More like I need to run some test tones and test sounds through this, much like I did with Macity, so that I can get a handle on what the thing sounds like and make a plugin that sounds like it. I've done a bunch of preliminary work, being the X series of EQs, which has been, the beginning of summer, really. And I need to follow it with the Z series, which are designed to sound like the filters that live in this old sampler. I'm also doing fairly well with the saving up for a fancier sampler thing. I'm probably about a 20th of the way along to getting an EMU 1200, unless it gets a lot more expensive by the time I get there. But that is still the plan. And I'm going to have a nice little sign back here somewhere depicting how close we are to that goal. That is, of course, funded by Patreon. I can't run around just getting expensive EMU samplers all the time. But with Patreon, I kind of can. So if you would buy BrightAmbience3 at $50 a pop for perpetual license to use on all of your computers, plus also you get the source code and get to release your own versions of it if you even wanted to, then throw that much per year at my Patreon and I will put the overflow of it to good use. And I'll get on the making the sample thing as far as the EQ plugins that I promised. It's not going to be that hard. I just have a lot on my plate at the moment. And on that note, I have some tacos to make because I haven't eaten yet. So time to post this plugin, BrightAmbience3, which I hope you'll like. And, oh yeah, and if you want YouTube to show my videos to more people, you know what to do. On that note, I'll talk to y'all later. And I'll see some of you on Monday when I do a live stream of coding another plugin. Bye-bye.